Okay, so biology section. Oh, that's lovely. Biology section 2, unit 1, cell structure and organization. So, as we always do, we go to the silly bus because it's so funny. My bus is silly. Alright, so state that living organisms are made out of cells. Real quick trick, whenever your syllabus says state, um, that's the answer, to be honest. They pretty much just tell you what to do. So the question would say, question 1 on the biology exam, what are living organisms made out of? And your answer would be, living organisms are made of cells. Moving on. Identify and describe the structure of a plant cell and an animal cell as seen under a light microscope. Light means the type of microscope, not that it's not very heavy, okay? So identify a plant cell and an animal cell as seen under a light microscope. Please note, they specify the type of cell you should be looking at. Palisade, oh, that was a good idea, Neville. Take it off, how do you? Palisade and liver cell. So now, that actually just gave you a piece of information. Whenever they say the word palisade cell, they are talking about a plant cell. And whenever they say the word liver cell, they are talking about an animal cell. I had a bunch of S2s in the final think that plants had livers. So, if you are anything like me, you are tired of writing these things from the syllabus in your book. But don't worry, keep doing it. So, identify and describe the structure of a plant cell and an animal cell. So, our typical plant cell is going to be. So, there is your basic plant cell, or palisade cell. The colors aren't real, they're just different colors to help you differentiate. So, step 1, identify the parts of the cell. Then, after identify, I'll talk about what the parts do. But step 1 is identify. So, let's label the cell in 5, 4, 3, 2, oh, done. Alright, so your basic plant cell has these parts. You have your cell wall, which is the outside portion. The cell membrane is the soft inside bag type section. You have your permanent vacuole, your nucleus, and your chloroplast. So that's your basic plant. And last but not least, cytoplasm. Gotta be in there. It is not in the vacuole, and it's not in between the cell wall and the cell membrane. So the cytoplasm is inside of the cell membrane. Your animal cell, your typical one, looks a bit like that. Okay? And once we add some label, you end up with that. So clearly animals are simpler than plants for the most part. So animal cells, basic ones, have a cell membrane, they are filled with cytoplasm, and they have a nucleus. Yes, anyone who went to middle school in Bermuda knows that there is a lot more stuff in the cells. Believe it or not, you learned too much in middle school. If you know what mitochondria are. If you know what mitochondria are, if you know what the Golgi apparatus is, that's AS level. GCSE level, animal cell, basic, plant cell, basic. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, what we have here, and I've just proven that I copied and pasted, what we have here is a table that's outlining the structures within the cell, their functions, and also when they tell you about the functions, they get to describe the structure as well. So it is a description of function and a description of the structure, as the syllabus told us to identify and describe the structure. So identification was with the labels, description is there. Not rewriting it. Actually, yeah, let me do this, because if I don't do it, I'm going to feel bad. So let's start with the cell membrane. The cell membrane, if you look back, both the animal cell and the plant cell have it. It's this part here, right? Now, when the cell membrane is like the bouncer at a club. So, cell membrane and oopsies. So, Club Palisade has two doorways. So these are doorways, they're completely open. Think Snorkel Park, alright? Doorways. Do I have to label it? So, without the bouncer, anything can get in or out. So, when Club Palisade is popping, you need some bouncers. And what the bouncers do is they determine who get in and who get out of the club. So, the walls of the club, all of this stuff, is just like a cell wall. It's hard, it keeps the shape of the cell, but anything can get in and out of the cell wall as long as it can fit through the door. If you can fit a piano through the door, it's going in. Now, who determines whether or not the piano goes in the door are the bouncers, and they are the cell membrane. The cell membrane says yes or no to what goes in and out of the cell. The cell wall keeps the shape and has lots of big holes in it, but the cell membrane are the bouncers. And if you go back, membrane forms a barrier between the cell and its surrounding, keep contents of cell inside, allow simple substances to enter and leave. That's the job of the cell membrane, to control what goes in and out. How to remember? There's two ways. One, membrane. B has a B for bouncer. The other one, brain, is synonymous with brain, and the brain thinks and tells you what goes in and out. So, cell membrane. And also, we've just described the cell wall. Alright? The other one that's constantly confused is chloroplast. Chloroplast is the name of the factory. Okay? So, the factory is called chloroplast. It's a building. And inside of the factory are a bunch of workers, and they all have the same name, Phil. Okay? They're all named Phil. So the chloroplast is filled with chlorophyll. And what does the chloroplast factory make? Or what do they do? We all know this from middle school. The chloroplast factory does photosynthesis, which of course uses sunlight to make oxygen and sugar. Okay, and what it actually trucks in order to make this oxygen and sugar, it trucks in CO2 and it pumps in water. So it trucks in CO2, it pumps in water. All the workers are named Phil, working in this big factory called chloroplast to do photosynthesis to make oxygen and sugar. But yes, chloroplast is where photosynthesis takes place. The workers on the inside that do that are named chlorophyll. Please don't mix up chloroplast and chlorophyll. Thank you. Not to rush, but if it can be put in a table, put it in a table. The differences between plants and animal cells, boom, banged out in the table. What they do and the differences for each structure. So now, as we always do, and I'm trying to keep the video under 6 minutes, I don't think I did, we relate what we've done so far to our bus of silly. State that organisms are made of living cells. You don't actually have to do that. Boom. Identify and describe the structure of plant cells. Done. Animal cells. Done. Describe the differences in structure between typical and animal cells. That was that table that I just showed you. Done. Relate the structures seen under the light microscope in the plant cell and in the animal cell to their functions. Boom. Go back a few slides and that's done too. I didn't write it out again. I'm sorry. Done. Nailed it.